Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura McGill, CEO of the experience agency D Flash. This is part of my 29 Days of Magic series, where I'm introducing 29 phenomenal Black women to the audience who are doing just game-changing things. And I am so excited to have Charlese Antoinette, who's an incredible costume designer, on this show. We're going to have a great conversation about how she built her phenomenal career, some of the shows she's worked on, and what she's up to next. It's going to be a great conversation. Take a listen. Hey, Charlese.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you on. So, as you know, first question, always the same, always really interesting answers. I'm sure yours will be no different. So, Charlese, what was your first job?
My first job as a costume designer was a film called Newlyweds. I costume designed it in 2012, and it was basically me and all my friends in Brooklyn making a movie out of the row home we lived in. It was literally like the production house,
Wow.
and yeah, it was pretty dope. So the editor lived upstairs. The actor was sharing the floor with him, and the guy who lived in that side of the floor was the location scout, but he gave up his apartment so the actor could stay there. I lived on the second floor, and me and the director shared a floor. And that same director, Shaka King, just directed the Untitled Fred Hampton project, which I just finished costume designing. So we went from doing like a $500,000 movie together to like a 30 billion.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so that was my first job as a costume designer. My first job in the film industry, though, I was an unpaid intern. When people could still be unpaid interns, it's no longer allowed because the
Really?
interns, yeah, the interns on Black Swan sued the production because they said they were helping to construct costumes and they should have got paid for that, which is super unfortunate because for someone like me who had like no connections to the industry, interning was the only way for me to get in. So I interned on this independent film called Solitary Man, starring Michael Douglas, Susan Sarandon, and Danny DeVito.
Wow.
And I basically just, yeah, I just did whatever people told me to do. I hung up clothes, I got coffee, I made copies of receipts, I did petty cash, stuff like that. And the movie had two costume designers. One was Jenny Gehring, and she went on to do The Americans, and now she's doing The Deuce. And then the other costume designer was Ella Marajnik, and she just won a CDG award for Maleficent. So I was really fortunate to work with those women like early in my career because they're both amazing designers.
Awesome. So how did you get to even wanting to be a costume designer? So you grew up here in New York, and how's that story start?
I actually grew up in the DC area. It seems like I grew up in New York because I've been in New York for so long, like on and off for the last 13 years. But I came to New York after college, actually. I grew up in the DC area and I grew up like in a very strict household, but like the one thing that we did was shop, shop and make clothes. So, and my family went to church every Sunday. So, every Sunday you go to church and you put on a show. So,
Oh,
fashion was always a really important part of my life. So and I always loved films. Like I remember growing up, I would watch like the same films over and over for the costumes. So, a lot of like, especially because we were super Christian, so I had to watch a lot of biblical films. So I would watch like Ben Hur over and over again, and Cleopatra I watched over and over again for the costumes. And these are like the old school Cecil B. DeMille films from like the 50s. So I used to watch those over and over as a kid, and then my grandmother was huge into thrifting, so I thrifted a lot with her. And then I decided to go to college for fashion, and thinking I wanted to work in the fashion industry. And I went to college. I got recruited out of college to work for Macy's and corporate product development. And then I got to New York. I was working this corporate fashion job, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I hate this.
you're like, no, ma'am.
Yeah. I hated it. And I started started getting invited to like fashion week shows and stuff. So I would like skip work to go to fashion week shows, and I like get in trouble. And I'm just like, but we work in the fashion industry. Why aren't we going to fashion shows? Like I just didn't understand that why there was such this disconnect. So I didn't last in that job long. After that, I left Macy's and I started freelancing. And as I started freelancing and understanding like what kinds of job opportunities were available to me as a freelancer, originally I was doing styling, but it wasn't quite like a passion for me. So I noticed that things were filming in the city. And I would just ask questions, like sometimes I would just roll up on film sets, just like ask people questions. And I remember I would just talk to anybody who would listen about what I wanted to do. And I was like, I wanted to do costume design and work in costumes. I love storytelling, and I think that would be a good fit for me, telling stories through clothing and through character. And I didn't have a full understanding of what that meant, but I just knew that's what I was interested in and always like loved when I watched TV and film. I never knew it was like an actual job that I could have as like a young black girl. Like
Oh,
no one was talking about costume design as a career in
right.
the DC area. So, I just asked until someone gave me an opportunity. Honestly, I was working New York Fashion Week because I used to work backstage New York Fashion Week like every season, like 10 to 12 shows a season. And one show I was backstage, and one of the girls was actually working with me was like, "Hey, do you want to intern on a film?" And it was the film I just told you about, Solitary Man.
Wow. So you literally just
Yeah.
right place, right time, and opening your mouth to ask.
Mhm. Yeah, I tell everybody like if you want to do something, you have to open your mouth and tell people what it is you want to do and ask because more times than not, people are willing to help and point you in the right direction. I've had more positive experiences with that than negative by far.
Yeah, I think that's really important just to let people know because oftentimes folks are like, I don't even know where to start. I'm like, you just gotta ask. And
Mhm.
if, like, if you ask 10 people, if at least five will at least give you something positive towards what you're trying to get to. And if the other five don't, well then screw them. Like,
Mhm. I
so
agree.
yeah, so okay, so last time I saw you, we were out in LA, and that was like a couple years ago now. And I've just been so amazed and proud to see how far you've gone in that amount of time. Why don't you tell some folks what you've been working on in the last few years?
Okay, great. So in the last 3 years, I costumed a really cool movie that's been playing on Netflix called See You Yesterday, and it's about these two kids who build a time machine in order to save their brother from being killed in an act of police brutality. It takes place in Brooklyn, and it was a really dope project for me because it was the first movie I'd actually done in Brooklyn about Brooklyn since Newlyweeds, and Newlyweeds has always had a special place in my heart because I feel like we captured like the mid 2000s really well. Like that movie is very much 2012 Brooklyn. And so it was really cool to have another opportunity to do that and to show people what Brooklyn looks like in my eyes
Mhm.
and in the eyes of the people around me. And so for that project, I ended up using a lot of dope Brooklyn-based designers. Um, the Griggs brothers, Rebels to Dons, this amazing painter, Malcolm Emilio, painted on all the clothing for me. And I used a lot of Black designers from around the country, Philadelphia Printworks, Dope Society. I used a lot of their work on the characters, and I tried my best to get as much clothes sponsored from larger brands and spent the bulk of my budget on these smaller Black brands. So that was a project I did, and that project's actually up for Independent Spirit Award, and it's been tracking really well. It was like the number one movie on Netflix internationally for a couple weeks. Um,
Oh,
so yeah, it premiered at Tribeca last year. Like it's been tracking really, really well. And then after that project came out, another awesome project came out that I did called Raising Dion, and that was a unique project for me because I ended up taking over mid-season, so you don't really get like the sense of my aesthetic until towards the end of the the season, so like around like episodes 6 through 9. So, and that was a challenge. It was a really challenging project for me because, you come in and like what people don't understand about TV is like when the person who like does the pilot as the costume designer, the production designer, the director, like they set the tone for what the show looks like in a lot of ways. So there's only so far you can like veer out of what the thing looks like tonally. So, it was a challenge like marrying like what the previous designer had kind of established and then trying to like push it forward because my aesthetic is very different than theirs and how I view the world and the characters is different. So I tried to add a lot more color to really make the characters pop. So that was one of my things, and just tried to like elevate characters, fashion when I could, when I had the opportunity to. There were several characters on the show that were scientists and they made good money and things like that. So I just tried to put my stamp on it as much as I could. But it got that show also did really, really well internationally and was also number one on Netflix for a while. And they just got signed on for season 2. So God willing, I'll be on their season 2 and like can show everyone just like my aesthetic for that full run of the show, which would be amazing. And I also did a sketch comedy show called Astronomy Club, and that was produced by Kenya Barris's camp, and that came out on Netflix in December. And it's gotten really great love. I mean, that was also really challenging for me because I had to go from contemporary to period, and then also like fantasy and sci-fi. And you get with sketch comedies, like you get like 30 something scripts, and every script has a completely different, vibe. It's in a different location, it's in a different time period, it's about a different topic, so you get stretched creatively really, really fast. And so, we have a Victorian era sketch that takes place. We have like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of fantasy sketch, that also takes place. And, we built the majority of these costumes, in house. So it
Wow,
was a
really?
lot of fun. Yeah, yeah, we built a lot of the costumes in house. The only ones we didn't, we partially built were the Victorian ones. A lot of them we sourced them pre-made because just we didn't have time to build out Victorian costumes, and we also did not have like the labor. But there were elements of those costumes that we did build. So, but everything else, like we built a lot of it. And so, I had an amazing tailor. Her name's Alicia. She's dope. And she and I would, we were in there just busting it down till 2 in the morning some nights. And I just wrapped my first period piece, full period piece, because I've done, sketches and I've done shorts that were period in the past, but I've never done a feature that was period. And so I just finished my first period feature, and right now it's called the Untitled Fred Hampton Project, and it's about the life and death of Fred Hampton, who was the chairman of the Illinois Black Panther Party, who actually ended up being murdered by the FBI and Chicago police. And we know this is true because of CONTELPRO. There were some papers that got leaked that were official FBI documents that basically said they made that happen. So it's not a conspiracy. It's true. There's evidence. You can Google it. It's easily Googleable. Yeah. So it's a really dope project because, again, the director who did my first movie with me, he and I teamed up again for this, and he wrote it or co-wrote it, and a lot of amazing people are involved. Ryan Coogler produced it. Charles King's company, Macro, also is a producer, and Warner Brothers is a studio as well. And so that is scheduled to be released in August. And it was amazing because it's all period. So it takes place in 68 and 69, which is my favorite time period for clothing. I think men and women just look so beautiful, especially like our people, Black people, just dress so nice during that era.
It is.
And
Era is my when I look at stuff my mom and dad were wearing, and my aunts and uncles in that period, it is like the style, the tailoring, the color it's my all-time favorite.
Yeah, mine too. I mean, it was so much fun doing the research, pulling the clothes, I mean, we shopped and bought, I think, every 60s, late 60s, early 70s, because, some pieces from the early 70s you can kind of filter in when you're doing the late 60s because there are going to be a couple people who are a little bit more fashion forward. So I think we bought like every late 60s, early 70s piece in the state of Ohio,
Oh my God.
like legitimately. Because, we had like 117 principal actors and then like over 1,000 background actors, and everyone has to be dressed head to toe.
Of course.
Eh, Yeah, so we needed a lot of clothes. We had a giant workshop, racks and racks and racks of clothes. So yeah, so that project comes out in August. I'm really excited about it. There's some amazing talent. Dan Kaluuya plays Fred, and Lakeith Stanfield plays O'Neill. And O'Neill, you can actually look this part of the story up. O'Neill was the informant that allegedly led to Fred's demise by betraying him. And he's actually featured in the Eyes on the Prize documentary, which came out in the late 80s. So if you Google William O'Neill Eyes on the Prize, you can watch footage of him talking about infiltrating the Panthers. It's so wild. And the FBI paying him. It's the craziest thing. Yeah. So that's what I've been up to.
So you haven't been busy at all.
Oh my God. It's been
Like
a whirlwind, but it's been great.
we won't be. There'll be an Oscar or two that could be coming your way very soon in 2021. One of those things. We're gonna put out in the universe. Uh, it's
That would be cool.
because your outfit for the red carpets would be amazing.
Thank you.
Lit. But it would be awesome. Like, so when you work on the show, like, what's that process like? So do you sort of come in with like sketches in mind, or like do you read the script ahead of time? Like, I know you've jumped into some stuff where you've been like sort of mid-season. Like, how do you find your inspiration and then be able to craft a story through clothing?
So, you find your inspiration through your imagination, to be honest. You read a script, and the script has clues about what a character is like, there's like usually some descriptive words in the script. But, for the most part, you have to use your imagination. A lot of writers are really great about writing out profiles about the specific characters or the main characters to give you more insight into like the type of person they are, the things they like, the music they like, places they've been, their career. But you don't always get that. So a lot of it is just using your imagination, reading the script, and just kind of picking up on what the essence of that character based off of like how they talk, things they say, how they move through the world, and move through that world in the script. And also just having really creative and collaborative meetings, with your showrunner if you're on a television show or on a movie, your writer and director, or if your movie is not a movie that is a writer director movie and it's a separate writer and separate director, usually meeting with just the director and the producers and production designer. But yeah, like the creative process is very collaborative in costume design. I come up with my initial ideas and my initial pitch, and I put together mood boards and sketches, and sometimes fabrics, um, ahead of time. But a lot of times, you really get down to the nitty gritty after that initial pitch. You get feedback from the showrunner, the director, et cetera. You talk to the production designer about color and like what the environment is going to look like that these characters are existing in and living in. And you take all that data and you basically, you know, come up with another version of that pitch after you get all that data. And that next version, a lot of times, does involve a lot more sketches. It does involve now procuring actual items. It involves now designing items, and then you show, you know, the items, and you walk through the clothing, the garments, the sketches, the fabrics with the director, with the showrunner, with the the creatives, and you go through it together and you get more feedback And then from there you start having fittings with your actors, and then you get a sense of what everything starts to look like on an actual person, because on the page in a sketch, it looks one way, but then sometimes you get it on the person and you're like, well, actually, I need to, alter this shirt this way, or these pants need to be shortened this way, or, you might change the silhouette. You might decide that you want to change the color. So, then you go through that process, the fitting process, and you're fitting every single person that's seen on camera. And sometimes, like in the case of the movie I just finished, sometimes your one character will have like 45 looks, 45 different outfit changes.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah. I forgot what movie it was. I was reading, it was a movie recently that came out, and one of their characters had like 100, and I was like, oh my God. I just had so much empathy for that costume designer, because 100, yeah, it can get to be overwhelming. So you have to have like a really strong team to help you, be stay organized, and to help you execute, and to help you, you know, procure what you need. So I have someone out shopping for fabric. I have someone out, pulling vintage clothes in the case of this movie. So I have like multiple people, you know, working and running around finding things for me, and I'm so grateful that people will do that, because I remember at one point when I didn't have people to help me run around procuring things, I was doing it all. So I'm just really grateful that I have like a really dope team of people to help me source fabrics, source clothing. I have someone to, I hire illustrators now to help illustrate, because you're under these time constraints sometimes where you can't sit and draw as the costume designer because you have so much going on. So, it's very much a team sport. I am the costume designer, I am the conceptual and creative head of the costume department, but I couldn't do things at a large scale without a team. Like, it's just not, it doesn't happen. So I think, it's just really important to acknowledge all the different positions in the department, and the and the efforts and the part that they play in getting the whole thing done. It's it's amazing. It really is how many people it takes to get it done.
You're like, there's a whole ass people back here.
It's like 15 to 20 people. It's a big department. And it can be even bigger. Depending on the size and scale of your show. I mean, I can only imagine how big the Game of Thrones wardrobe department was.
Oh
I
my God.
mean, yeah.
All 11 million people on that show at any given time.
Yeah, exactly. So it takes a real solid crew of people, and I'm really grateful that people want to work with me, and, enjoy working with me, and enjoy, making art as much as I do, and telling stories as much as I do.
It's awesome. And you just do a phenomenal job. And as I said, it's just been a joy to watch you just shine brighter and brighter and brighter. What would you tell 25-year-old Charlese?
Oh man, it's so amazing you asked me this question, because I literally just had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday who is in her 20s about this exact thing. And I told her, I would be even bolder and take more risks, and also just go with the flow even more. Like, I think a lot of times I was so focused on achieving in my career that I missed out on a lot of things. I missed out on life in a way, and I was telling her, I've had some really amazing times in my life, and I was so focused on like what's next that I didn't fully enjoy that moment of time, and like I had my 20s were really fun. I was doing a lot, and I was achieving a lot, and I was also not fully present while I was doing it. And I really think like now, I'm in my mid 30s now, and I regret it. I regret not being more present, and just like being proud of myself and enjoying like the fruits of my labor a little bit more instead of just being like, oh, it's not enough. I got to do more, you know? And I'm just trying my best in my mid 30s to adopt more of the presence, you know, being present and enjoying the moment and being proud of my accomplishments and not always looking like to the next thing, like what's next, what's bigger and better, you know, because you're just never satisfied, you know. And I think I looked up one day and I was like, yo, I've done all this stuff, but what does it all mean? You know, and it's because I wasn't being present
Right.
and enjoying the moment. And I've just been really working on that because it's like, it's great. The drive that I have and all that is amazing. And that's why I've been able to accomplish so much in, you know, a short amount of time. But then what? You know, you have all these accomplishments, but are you enjoying your life?
Or are you actually living? And I think
Are you living?
that's one of the hardest parts about this. That like, we're sort of built to be go, 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 make this success, make this money, get the accolades. And we don't have this moment to be like, take a step back and be like, damn, did you see what I just did? Like, and like take that in for a little bit and, absorb that and feel good in that, because that's what's going to refuel you to keep doing more, as opposed to like, okay, I just did this awesome thing. I got this other awesome thing right now, 5 minutes later.
Mhm.
And so it's hard because I know, especially as Black women, we sometimes think that we're never going to get another chance. So if we don't like jump on the next thing, that we're gonna like, it's never gonna happen again, and we forget that like, no, we're dope as shit. Like more good shit's coming our way.
Yeah, I mean, because that's a complete lie, you know, and that's like a scarcity mindset. And it's not our fault that we were brought up in that. It's just cultural. And it's, you know, unfortunately due to where a lot of our people are economically, we're brought up in like a scarcity mindset. And, you know, and that's why you end up where you're talking about and I'm talking about, where you're just like, I got to keep doing it or it's going to go away. And then
Right.
it's like, no, no, you're doing it.
Doing
You're
it.
doing it. And that's enough. And you're doing it well, actually. And you should be proud of yourself and you shouldn't be so hard on yourself. You know, like I like the perfectionism thing. I'm still working through, you know, and I think like as an artist, being a perfectionist is not ideal.
I
Because
totally
of the nature of
understand.
art, you know, like you gotta let it go. You gotta just do the thing and let the thing go out in the world and let people interact with the thing and stop trying to like hoard it and get it perfect, you know? So it's a balance for sure.
And it's a never ending balance, because like you think, oh, everything's awesome, great, and then you're like, oh wait. But I think if you sort of try and shift a little bit more and go from having a scarcity mindset to having this abundant mindset, that like all of this abundance is because of course I'm gonna get this, like this is where it's coming from. And more and more and more, and we can stretch further and go bigger and deeper, because we deserve it and we work hard for it. So that's so important to keep in mind as we elevate and go up into the next levels of the things that we do. So
Absolutely.
what are you working on next?
I'm actually on a little break.
Good.
I've been interviewing for, yeah, I know, because
Proving our point.
I'm like, this is cool.
And it feels
I'm
good,
like, this
right?
is nice. Yeah. You know, I saved up a bunch of money, um, you know, on my last project because I moved out of my apartment in LA because I've been traveling so much over the last couple of years. So I was like, well, if I get another travel job, I'm gonna move out of my apartment. And I did. And so, you know, I was making the money that I make, not paying any bills really. So I saved a bunch of money. So I'm in a place where I can kind of chill for a little bit and pick and choose and be more picky about like the kinds of stuff that I want to do and not feel like, oh, I have to work, you know, because sometimes when you get into this rhythm of like, you know, as a freelancer, as a person that works in film and television, of like, oh my God, I have to work, you start taking projects that you don't really love or you're not that interested in just for the money. And for me, that's not good as a artist and as a costume designer. It's not good. um, I'm trying to make sure that the projects that I work on are stories that I'm passionate about, and and creatively are pushing me.
Mhm.
So I'm taking a break, and I've been just like, I've moved to New York, so I've been getting settled in New York and reconnecting with friends and spending time with family, like doing a lot of stuff that I haven't been able to do the last couple of years because I've been so insanely busy. Um, you know, Working on a couple of like I have a show idea that I'm working on. I'm writing a book actually
Awesome.
about yeah, about how to basically do what I did, which is get into this industry with like zero contacts. So I'm writing a how-to book on how to break into the costume industry, and then also teaching people once they break in how to succeed. So how to be a really good assistant, and then what all the positions in the department are, and just like really valuable tools and tricks of the trade and stuff like that. So I'm working on that as
Awesome.
well. Yeah, and then I started the Black Designer Database, so I'm trying to get that off the ground and make it into a social community hopefully by 2021. Um, and also I would like there to be an element of commerce to it. So I'm working on just pushing that. And for Black History Month, I've been doing some giveaways of various Black designers items that they're amazing to gift to me, and trying to highlight Black designers this Black History Month. Um, what else am I working on? Just working on a bunch of projects and just enjoying time off
Yeah.
and
Like,
just nesting, like just yeah. So, I like I said, season 2 of Raising Dion is probably what's next. I'm not sure what's gonna happen yet. I mean, I know they want me back, but you never know how things go. So, um, yeah, I mean that would be the one thing that I definitely would say would be up next is that's in April. It would start in April. And I think the show would premiere towards the end of the year again. No, next year. It would premiere the following year, so 2021.
wow.
Because they have to do all these edits for special effects. Because there's so many special effects, so it takes a while to do all those edits and stuff. All that post. So yeah, I mean, I'm just really just enjoying just chilling and getting ideas and being creative and connecting with like-minded people. I've been mentoring people. I started a program in Cleveland, a sewing program at the Boys and Girls Club where I donated with amazing, generous gifts from people in my community, my friends, my family, and also people on the set that I was working on donated money. So I raised like $1,500, and I bought 10 sewing machines and 10 sewing kits, and we had fabric donations and more machine donations locally. And so that's something that I'm also trying to replicate as a model every city that I travel to for work. I'm trying to do that. And they're talking about expanding it to a nationwide program. So just working with them on that. And yeah, just trying to just be a really good person. like like that's it. Just make art, be a good person.
No,
That's where I'm at.
you're an amazing person. And yeah, and I think I was traveling when you had the thing you're doing with the sewing machines, but I was like, oh my gosh, that's so brilliant and wonderful because my mom is a dressmaker and learning how to sew
Mm.
I suck at, but I know what how that can open up so many different places for people. So it's so incredible that you're doing it. And those kids will love you forever and it'll make an incredible impact. So
Yeah, it's amazing.
yeah, it's a really, really beautiful thing that you've done. So I know that you're chilling, but what do you do for your self-care now? Because like you are on a bit of a break, you're kind of getting a refuel of great new projects. What's the thing that you're sort of doing to um, just for you? Like spa days, reading books, like what's that thing for you?
Um, so my self-care routine It varies. Right now, I've just been trying to focus on making sure I'm cooking, like as a self-care routine, because when you work as much as I do, you don't get to cook as much as you want. Some days I'm working like 12 to 16-hour days because production days are long. So I'm just like, yo, like let me cook. I'm home. Let me cook for myself. And that's just such a loving thing that you can do for yourself that I don't feel like enough of us do because of our schedules. So yeah, I've been cooking. I've been just like making sure I'm beautiful as another self care routine that I try to keep up. Like making sure my hair and nails are done. Whether I get them done or I do them myself. Um, I love the spa. The spa is definitely my place. I've spent a lot of money on all kinds of facials and treatments, and like, it's to the point where I tell most people that I love, like, if you want to get me a gift, just get me like a spa package because that, like, I'll be there. Like, that's the perfect gift for me. I love the spa.
I know.
I've also, yeah, I've been trying to like, yeah, you've been.
It was awesome.
It's so fun. I've also been trying to get back on my exercise tip. Roller skating is like one of like my favorite things to do because it's like an inner child thing it feeds, and it's a great workout. So I started roller skating again. Me and my friend MJ, who we went roller skating the other day, and we're like, let's do this. Like, and she's like excited, like I am. Like, let's do this all the time. So starting to roller skate again and getting back into Pilates. Like, I have time off. It's great. So I have lots of time for self care.
Awesome. Dude, I haven't roller skated in like a gazillion years.
It's so much fun. It's like you just instantly feel joyous like a child.
That's
And
true.
that's why I like it.
You got
Yeah, it's great.
it is sort of the most important thing. So,
Mhm.
but last question. So, as part of my sort of 29 days of magic, I want to sort of have my guests talk about like a give or an ask or both. So, is there something that you'd like to ask for, or is there something you'd like to give, so people can like hear what's coming up like for you?
Sorry. What do I want to give or ask? I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. I missed that part. Like advice wise?
It can be advice wise. It could be, um, like my give is if someone wants to know about costume design, here's some resources. Or my ask is anyone's got any connections with more girls and boys clubs, stuff like that.
Got it. Okay. That's what I thought. Sorry, I was being a little slow. Um, so yeah, my give. So I'm about to start giving away free advice on
Oh,
my Instagram. Yes, free costume career advice. I'm going to start doing some videos really soon, just quick videos, and I'm asking that people send me questions that they want me to answer. I'm going to do a post really soon about this.
mhm.
So, yeah, hopefully when this podcast is released, the post will be up. So, yeah, I just would ask, it's like I ask and a give. So
Mhm.
I ask that people follow me on Instagram at Charlese Antoinette, and I will give you free advice.
Perfect. That's a twofer. Is it just on costume design, or is it dating and living in New York, shopping? Because if you say you have free advice, you know what you'll do.
Dating in New York has been going pretty good so far.
Okay,
I'm
so I
like,
need to ask you,
oh,
what are your tips?
um, y- I think it's just I've been lucky to find like really good guys that have similar interests to me recently, and and um and oftentimes it's really through work. That's where I find some really amazing guys to like hang out with and kick it with. It's not on the apps. So I would say free dating advice. focus on professional settings. Going to like professional events, go to and even volunteering. Like volunteer, do volunteer work. Like you meet, because you want to be in a place where you're going to meet people who have good hearts and have similar interests to you. So I would say like anything that involves volunteering with people from your industry. That's
Oh,
a good place.
that is a good tip. Okay.
Hmm.
All right.
So free dating advice.
See, listen. All right, so everyone's gonna follow you on Instagram. We'll time this post so it goes up when you officially launch the Ask Charlese section on Instagram. And see where.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a Monday thing, Monday of next week.
Ah,
So,
all right.
because Mondays are usually a good day to like get people get people interested in a new idea. Everybody's back at work, doing their thing. Weekend's over. Like the weekends are terrible to launch things on Instagram for me.
Yes,
Like no one, no one's online. They're like out in the world doing their thing. But Mondays, I think Monday lunchtime, that'll be a good time.
exactly. Sounds a good plan. Well, Charlese, it's been such a delight to have you on the show. Like I said, it's just been a joy to watch your success, and how you're giving back is so very incredible. So thank you so very much.
Thank you. I'm so glad you're using your platform to feature and amplify Black women for 29 days. I think that's really dope. It's really dope and really important. Thank you.
Awesome. And we'll put all the information about what Charlene is up to, how you can ask her stuff on Instagram, and some of the shows that she's worked on, so you can check those out and see some of her work. Uh, and that is our show.